Time. The member for Parramatta.
Acting Speaker, I rise today to support the Minister of State's amendment. Acting Speaker, last year's federal election was nothing short of a wake-up call for Australia's elected representatives. The largest crossbench in history, an all-time low in our faith in democracy, and the political whiplash from a generation of Australians who grew up in a decade of dishonesty in our parliament. Acting Speaker, I'm a firm believer in our Australian democracy and a firm believer that this House is capable of generational change for the better. I believe that change for a better future can start here, and change for the better starts with us. Acting Speaker, I've spoken before about the dangerous state of our democracy, the crisis of confidence that we are in, a generation of the disillusioned, a seismic structural shift in Australian politics. And since I last spoke on this, the 2022 Australian Electoral Study was released. Now, after every election, the Australian National University's Australian Election Study collects data from thousands of voters right across Australia, and it's been doing that since 1987. It looks at long-term trends across years and decades and lifts the lid on deep, long-running issues that aren't reflected in fortnightly polling. And until 2019, its findings on public faith in our democracy were not only disappointing but distressing. Satisfaction with Australian democracy was on a precipitous decline. In 2007, 86% of Australians said they were satisfied with our democracy. In 2010, that fell to 72%. In 2016, it fell again to 60%. In 2019, it fell again to 59%. And by that point, more than a third of Australians were not satisfied with our democracy. The study also asked if people in government can be trusted. And again, the statistics bear a strong decline. In 2007, 43% of Australians said that politicians can be trusted. By 2010, it had fallen to 37%. The next election, 34%, then 26%, and in 2019, 25%. Only 25% of Australians said their politicians could be trusted. 3 in 4 people didn't think their politicians could be trusted. Acting Speaker, in May last year, we had the first signs of a change to these statistics. And with the release of the 2022 study, these trends began to change for the first time since 2007. Satisfaction with our democracy rose from a dangerously low 59% to 70% between 2019 and 2022. And mistrust in government actually went down, not up, again for the first time. In 2022, the percentage of respondents who felt that the people in government only looked after themselves dropped from an all-time high of 75% in 2019 to 70% in 2022. It's not a big drop, but it's moving in the right direction. And clearly we have a long way to go before faith in our democracy is restored. But this is the first time in a long time that faith in our democracy has begun to rise. And it's support for reforms to strengthen our democracy that is partly behind this reversal. The 2022 Australian Electoral Study also reported that 92% of respondents either strongly supported or supported a national anti-corruption body. And last year we delivered on this very promise. And this is just a first step on a long pathway towards restoring long-term faith in our democracy. We need to make sure this parliament is transparent, accountable and reliable. That is our responsibility. That is our mandate. That is our job. And that is exactly what this bill brings to the table. Fighting for our democracy doesn't just take the courage to speak out, but the courage to act. And since taking government, the Albanese government has done just that. In 8 months, we've established the National Anti-Corruption Commission. We've pushed for representation for our First Nations peoples with a voice to Parliament. And now legislating safeguards against the undermining of the principles of responsible government that took place during the Morrison government. Acting Speaker, the amendments put forward today are the result of an independent inquiry into the conduct of the member for Cook during his time as Prime Minister. Between March 2020 and May 2021, as the country grappled with an ongoing public health crisis, the member for Cook appointed himself to no less than 5 additional portfolios. He became the Minister for Health. He became the Minister for Finance. He became the Minister for Industry, Science, Energy and Resources. He became the Treasurer, and he became the Minister for Home Affairs. And an independent inquiry led by former High Court Justice the Honourable Virginia Bell AC found that the fundamental principles of responsible government had been undermined by these actions. And, Acting Speaker, I reject the accusation that this was all the result of a political witch hunt. Frankly, I find it concerning that the opposition would continue to undermine independent, responsible procedures of government by labelling the Bell inquiry a political witch hunt. Let's get the facts clear. This was an independent inquiry. It was not about the politics. It was about why this happened, how this happened, and how we can prevent it from happening again in the future. Acting Speaker, I commend the Albanese Labor government on taking the inquiry's recommendations forward. The Minister of State's Amendment Bill 2022 forms one part of the government's response to Ms Bell's recommendations. Specifically, this bill puts an end to secret ministries and an end to the practice of dishonesty. It marks the start of a new era and a new approach to government, one defined by transparency, accountability and a commitment to democracy. Acting Speaker, in sum, this bill demonstrates the government is delivering on its promise to restore the Australian people's confidence in our federal system of government and to rebuild integrity in public sector institutions, processes and officials. This bill will implement reforms to provide for greater transparency and accountability in Commonwealth administration. The purpose of this bill is to implement the first of the 6 recommendations from the Bell inquiry, and it follows the steps the government has already taken to establish a powerful, transparent and independent National Anti-Corruption Commission. This government is committed to restoring faith in our democracy, to bring back integrity and accountability. Australians deserve to know who is appointed to be their ministers, who is their executive, and what offices they hold. Acting Speaker, our democracy is precious, and it's our responsibility to protect it.
The question is that this bill be now read as